Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm here with Cody Reinke with Wings Construction. They're located in Stacy, Minnesota. Really excited to have Cody on the show with us. Welcome to Builder Stories, Cody.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so why don't you kick us off? Give us a little bit of background, who you are, how you got into construction, what led you to start Wings Construction.
Yeah. Kind of started in construction right out of high school. Didn't have a great path that I was really passionate about. Tried the college thing a couple times back and forth, and just always found myself back in the construction world. Couldn't sit still long enough to stay in a classroom seat. So swinging a hammer and being in construction was a great path for me. So I started out in fire and water mitigation, working just as a carpenter. I did everything in that world, from framing to drywall, flooring, trimming doors, paint, cabinets, kind of everything. Kind of really made me who I am today. Taught me kind of a lot of what I know in the business. I was with that company for about 8 years before transitioning to my own company with Wings, and I was it was time for the jump. I was ready to kind of do some different things, take the leap of faith, and open my own company. And that's where Wings came from. So now we're still a small team. We're on the verge of needing to grow, trying to figure out when the right time is to pull the trigger and add some more people on the team. But now I've run Wings for a number of years now, and it's been going great.
It's awesome, man. So when did you officially start Wings?
2020 COVID year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the what were your original projects, kind of the focus?
A lot of storm damage. In Minnesota, we get a ton of hail, and roofing, siding, windows. Dealing with the insurance companies was a lot of what we did to start. Still do a lot of that, but that was really the kickoff that got me into this kind of side of the business, being on my own. Was the storm damage. We have so much work here for that side of the business, and have a lot of connections, relationships that I've built with insurance agents that have sent me a lot of work. Keep them very happy and take care of their customers really well, and that work continues to grow. So that was where we started. At this point, we're transitioning a little bit. I really want to get into new construction and remodeling, a little bit back to my original roots of, swinging a hammer, being more of a carpenter rather than doing just exterior stuff. I enjoy the exterior, but really miss the full remodels and new construction side of it too. So that's where the business is shifting to a little bit at this point. I'll still always do storm damage. I have a great referral base in that side of things, so we'll stick with that forever. I'll never be out of it, but transitioning a little bit to be more diverse for sure.
Yeah, man, that's you definitely got a very well-rounded set of experience there, I guess, working for that previous company. Was there anything like in particular that happened, or like you just woke up one day and decided you wanted to be your own boss and you just did it?
Yeah, it was it was a little bit of that. I'd always thought about owning my own company. It had always been something on the back of my mind, but never really. I was young. I still am. But I was really, I was looking for more. I was tired of just being a carpenter that showed up 8 to 4, did their 8 hours a day or whatever it was, and went home. I really was looking for a bigger role, of course, with that bigger income. And had a conversation with the company about trying to do that, and it just didn't materialize as quick as I wanted. So I kind of at that point made the decision to leave. very, very tough decision. It was not without a lot of thought. The that company and that owner, I worked side by side with him for many years. He's a extremely important piece of my career, my success. Huge mentor to me, means a lot. So at the time, it was very, very difficult to leave. But um, after the dust settled, probably a year or so later, we reconnected, and we're on good terms again, and friends, and it's all good there. We pass work back and forth, and it's a great relationship still. But that was kind of just where Wings came from. Is I wanted more. I wanted to take on more. Felt like I could. Had no idea if I could. It was just kind of wanted to test the waters and see what it's like to own your own company and run a business. And where we have 5 years later, going on 6 years later, we're still kicking. So it's been a whirlwind. Owning your own business is no joke. That is for sure. It is. Grass isn't always greener. I tell a lot of people, colleagues in the industry, that still work for a company, and they're like, well, I just want to go on my own and do XYZ. I'm like, I'll tell you everything that I know. I don't know a lot, but I'll give you tips where I can, and it's not always greener. It's not easy,
Yeah.
but it's if it's in the and if that's really what you want, it's definitely attainable, and it is worth it for sure.
So how old were you when you started the business?
20 24.
Nice. Good for you, man.
Yep.
It's
So
that's awesome that again, you saw something you wanted and you made it happen. A lot of people
yeah,
I think sort of sit in that limbo state of like, I know I want to do it, but like, I mean, as an entrepreneur, we got to roll the dice and you got to take on risk. And,
we
sometimes it
do.
works, sometimes it doesn't. Obviously it looks like it's working out for you, but, yeah, man, it's good for you. Do, do you think like early on, like thinking back, like, again, like when you went and you set up the company and like all of that stuff, like, did you have, someone else or a mentor or a coach or anyone, or like, did you just Google it and started?
Uh, pretty much Google, and was winging it.
Yeah, there
I
you go.
I didn't have people to fall back on that I could ask a lot of help from, because I was obviously kind of burning a bridge without burning it with my mentor, really. So I couldn't really go to him and ask how
Yeah.
to do all this. So it was really just had to figure it out, and it is a lot, to go from just having a company and then getting your general contractor's license, especially in Minnesota. Very difficult in Minnesota. There's a lot of things that you have to figure out and set up, and so it was not easy. So I had I from the beginning, I have a great tax guy, that really helped on that side of things. So that was a great connection. That's actually how I got hooked up with Job Tread, through them. So that turned out great. But otherwise, everything else was just Google it and hope you're doing it right, and hope the state doesn't come after you for doing something wrong, is what it was.
Yeah. So were you and are you still wearing the tool belt? Like, were you doing all the jobs yourself early on, I assume?
Yep, I definitely was. A lot of it is sub work. I'm actually getting I'm getting back into doing more of wearing the tool belt now, as the company kind of transitions into doing more new construction and more remodel. Kind of getting we did really, like I said, we did really storm damage for a while. So I wasn't doing I wasn't putting roofs on and doing that stuff myself. I had crews for that, just from connections in the business. But now that we are transitioning back to remodels and new construction, now I'm swinging a hammer again, climbing on the roofs, and doing that kind of stuff. So really, we are kind of trying to focus a lot on actually doing post frame construction. So um, I really, really enjoy framing these post frame buildings. I don't know what it is. It's fun to see these structures go up in like a week, if that, on some of them, and have a building in a very short amount of time. It's just, I've kind of found a knack for it, and really enjoy that. So I'm having fun swinging the hammer again, and not having to stare at a computer all day long all the time.
Oh, there you go, man. It's all about figuring out what you're excited to do, and you build a team around you to do everything else.
Yep, pretty much. Now it's the team building part that I gotta start doing again.
Yeah. How did you? I'm curious. Like, what was your first job? How did you get that first customer?
Um, my insurance agent, who I've known for a very long time, was really very important in helping me build my book of business.
Hmm.
We've known each other for a while, but he took a chance on this new guy, young kid, new company, and sending me referrals that he's had for all of his customers. So it was just storm damage. Hailstorm came through. He had customers that needed to be taken care of, and we sat down and talked and told him what I was doing, and kind of the rest is history. I took care of the first customer, and they were super happy. Gave him great feedback that I really helped them, took care of them. Was kind of a normal person in the storm world that was honest. I gave them honest opinions. Wasn't a slimy contractor that in the storm business you hear of a lot, unfortunately. Um, so I was a honest, normal guy that just wanted to help them fix their stuff and get them back to normal, and move on to the next one, and really have a good relationship with the homeowners was a huge part of it. So
Yeah.
that take care of the first one, and then the dominoes kind of started falling with the referrals from the agent, as well as other customers, or other friends of friends and whatnot for referrals from that first one. So
How did you go about pricing your early jobs? I gotta believe the price must have been right to get the insurance agency to keep sending more people.
yeah, luckily, I kind of knew how that worked. With the insurance world, we were looking at the insurance paperwork, so I didn't really have to come up with all that myself.
No.
I was kind of staring at the original insurance paperwork that had all the numbers on it, and that was what we worked off of. So luckily, didn't have to just pull random numbers out of somewhere and go with it and hope that they stuck. So that was kind of where we started. And now, after that, you kind of started to, for future jobs or retail where it wasn't storm damage, I just kind of based all my numbers off of that. And it's worked. It's definitely worked. And now that you get further along, the first year is you're flying by the seat of your pants. You really are. And I still even feel like that some days now. I really just still trying to figure it out. But you get, as it gets easier with time, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and all those little things get easier. And now that I'm getting into the remodel and the new construction, it's kind of a whole new ball game of trying to figure out my whole catalog of pricing again. Where do we want to be at? Where do we need to be at for pricing, for all of these different components? It's not as easy as just a roof and siding and windows anymore. It's all the components of a house that it's definitely trying to figure out now, all of those pricing components again.
Sure. So you said you've got one other person on the team, is that right?
Just one. Yep. My father. He's the real estate agent, has been for 20 years, and he's when I did this, we talked, and it's kind of always been a dream for us to work together. We're kind of best friends and hang out all the time. Um, and so when I started this, I was like, well, he 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 really still loves real estate, but really wanted to work with me. He loves construction. I learned a ton from him growing up. No, he never did anything like professionally. Just That was just what we did when we grew up. Me and my dad and my grandpa, we just everything around the house, we fixed it. Like they fixed everything themselves. They tore down the family cabin and completely rebuilt it themselves when I was a little kid. So I've just kind of been around it forever. So has he. And this year, actually, I finally brought him on staff. So writing paychecks to my father was a little bit of a weird thing when we first started, but it's been absolutely awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I haven't met many other people. So my dad is he was the first person I hired in my last company, first person I hired here. He's my CFO. But most of the time you hear people working for their dad, and then they maybe
Yep.
inherit it later or whatever. But yeah, no, it's pretty cool, and you can say you employ your dad.
It is. I would agree. It's a weird thing, but it's super cool.
Yeah. So what's the thought process about building out that team a little bit more? I mean, have you have you started to hit some, kind of some scaling challenges where like where you getting too many jobs or can't get enough jobs, out the door? Like, kind of what's leading you to think about building out a team?
Yeah, I I just had this conversation with my wife actually. I've really hit that point where trying to do everything myself, from all the admin stuff, running the company, along with still taking all the phone calls, doing all the estimates, trying to meet all the customers, still running a lot of the jobs myself. I really kind of the pinch point right now is admin stuff is falling behind, which I don't like because that just causes problems on the back end, along with even just getting estimates out to people. I'm normally very quick. Like that's what you want. Because someone's going to call you, you want to get them an estimate as fast as you can to try and
Yep.
secure the job. And that's been a glaring issue for me in the last handful of months. Just a lot of jobs coming in, which is fantastic. I'm
Yeah.
I'm blessed to have that opportunity, which is great. But if I can't get to people, that's not good from reputation. I'm not going to get those jobs, of course, if I can't get the estimate out to them. So that's kind of been a pinch point that I need to figure out what's next to hire somebody to take things off my plate so that I can get to those estimates and those customers quicker to keep jobs coming in so we can do even more. So we're just kind of at that point where I'm kind of stuck with just being me and my dad. We we just I don't have the team or enough resources right now because I can only do so much by myself to get to the next level that it's tough to get, and I do, it's the tough part of knowing when is the right time, and that's a
Yep.
big thing. It's bringing my dad on is one thing, because he still has his real estate business, so it's not like I'm if we don't have work for a week or two for him, it's not like he's not putting food on the table. He has another job as well that he still works, but
Yep.
all of a sudden you bring someone else on and you're their only source of income. That's a big responsibility that I'm very very aware of, that I don't know. I don't know exactly how to navigate that or know when to make that step. So still trying to figure that one out.
Hey, well, first of all, you're absolutely right. This is a great problem to have. You know,
Yep.
it's when things are working, you're doing good work. Your business is getting known. You get a bunch of referrals coming in. You got happy customers. I mean, like these are all the things that everyone dreams of and you want to happen. I mean, you don't have a top of the funnel problem, which is great. The
Yep.
question is now how do you capture more of that funnel and get those leads converted into into prospects and customers for you. I mean, it's something that definitely does take a lot of a lot of thinking through when is the right time, and I tell people like you got to figure out like what is the what do you want to do every day? What is your role, in the business? And then what are all of the other roles and all the functions that need to happen that like, you know, as all of us entrepreneurs, we just keep putting on the hat because we got nobody else to put it on, but
Yep.
like at the end of the day, like, where can you like take things off your plate that, either, you're just not excited about doing or you think somebody else could do a better job, and I think too, like you don't always have to fill and put a full-time employee in the seat there. Like there may be ways where you can, hire out, let's say you need a marketing agency or you need a bookkeeper or you need, like there's ways that you can kind of leverage, partners, and people that can come in and can sort of help give you a lot of horsepower for a fraction of what a full-time person would cost. So that's kind of some, some of that stuff you can sort of think through, but like at the end of the day, I mean, you're struggling to get the estimates out, you probably do need somebody to help with that, or, you need to free up more of your time to be able to help with that. But if you're
Right.
trying to wear the tool belt, then it's going to be very hard to get those estimates out the door. And that's where, I see a lot of people, you got to kind of decide like, what side of the house you want to be on. You want to be on the business side or do you want to be on the production side, and you
Right.
typically kind of gravitate to one or the other. My guess sounds like you really grew up in the trades doing the work. Like you love that tool belt. Probably gonna be hard to take that off if if that's your true passion.
Yeah, it definitely will be. But I've also, since I started this, growing the company, starting the company, and growing it to where we are now, which is small in comparison to a lot that I follow, through the social media world and whatnot, and aspire my company to be. It's been fun to learn about business, to teach myself about business, whether it be podcasts like we're doing, listening to a lot of smart people in the industry. That's been really fun to, because I didn't know anything about business, nothing. Like I said, I was in high school and I started in the trades right away. I mean, I didn't know anything about business. So learning that side of things has really been enjoyable. So I'm Yeah, your question makes me sit here and think about it because I don't have an answer yet, but I do like swinging a hammer all the time. But I also really have enjoyed the business side of it too. So that's kind of a predicament that I'm in,
Yep.
is figuring out where I need to be really, to that so that wings can grow where I want it to.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, even thinking about just creating a job description for all of these roles, within the business, I'm a big believer in, have a careers page on your website, just put it all out there, you know, just having the line in the water, like you never know when someone's going to come along who might, be a great fit for one of those roles. At the end of the day, like it's you got to find the right people, whether they're a business partner, whether they're employee or however you want to structure it. I
Yep.
think there's a lot of opportunity, but like, at the end of the day, like, right, like if you want to run the business, like eventually you can't be in it every single day. You got to, work on it. And
Right.
so like whether it's, today or next year, or the year after that, like, at some point you'll want to backfill all of the roles that you're currently doing, and that's going to free yourself up a lot. But like, again, maybe you go look and say, look, if I can find a great, lead, carpenter, someone who can, take me out of the field, awesome. If I find someone who's going to do the business side, the estimating, that type work, awesome. If you find just a back end, admin or even a VA, I mean, like there's a lot of ways that like you can try to find people that will join you. But look, sometimes if you offer up different compensation structures, you don't necessarily have to pay out a full salary if you're going to also offer a profit share, some sort of back interest, or have an additional way to incentivize them. And if you do better, they do better. If you guys struggle, well, you're both going to struggle. And I think that
Right.
there's ways that depending on how you structure it, like you don't necessarily have to sort of feel that same level of pressure that like, man, like if we don't get the jobs, like what's going to happen? That is a big challenge, I think, for a lot of people making those
Yep.
those first early hires. And what I would also say is like, dude, just get a budget. I actually have a financial playbook talk that I don't know if you've seen, but you can literally download and save a copy of this annual budget spreadsheet where you can go in, just plug in like what are your goals for the year. Let's kind of divide that up by 12. If you want to kind of get fancy and really sort of say, these months are better than these months, like you can do that. But like when you start to look at like how am I going to hit those goals? Well, do I have, the people to do that? Like because you're going to need so many customers every month at an average price point, and if you just physically can't get the estimates out the door, and then when you do win the job, if you can't actually execute and deliver on the job, there's these two sides of the house. Like, you got to be able to deliver on both. And so hopefully though, what you can look at is like model out, well, if we can hit these goals, well, we can definitely afford to have those people in place because we'll be able to pay them, and I think sometimes that might give you that confidence to know that like, hey, here is the plan. We have a plan, going into this new year, 2026. Let's find the people that can help you hit that plan. And when you hit that plan, you'll not only be able to pay them, but you'll be putting a lot more cash on the bottom line, which is
Right.
ultimately the real goal here. And so, I think it's about just really thinking through those roles and responsibilities, and then, getting those feelers out there, and, posting on job boards, and just start talking to people and networking. Cause you never know, when that right person comes
Yeah.
along. I mean, you want to be ready to say, hey, I know exactly what you could do here. Here's how we could do it. Let's go.
Yeah. Very, very true. If you're not ready for it, then you're going to miss the opportunity.
Yep. Yep. For sure. What would you say, like, again, kind of thinking back to when you first started this, like, were there any surprises that like you just, obviously everything's, probably a little bit, new, and that has its own difficulties in and of itself. But like, were there any things that like, as a business owner, you just were kind of shocked by, or just didn't have any clue you really needed to deal with?
Yeah, I would say probably from a business side of it, like all the admin stuff, honestly, that there's so much on the backside of things that you have to manage, whether it be insurance with the state, all your subcontractors insurance, making sure that they have W-9s, like simple things for a business. But when I first started, I had no idea, absolutely no clue how to manage all these things, how to collect all of them. Sub agreements, I had to go find an attorney. Like, I had none of these contacts, didn't know any of that stuff. That was probably the surprising part, coming from a guy that really just swung a hammer, was on the job, told where to go for the most part. Now all of a sudden you step into business owner, wearing all the caps, of course, but all of that paperwork and documentation, making sure you have your insurance, they have their insurance, contracts with the subs, contracts with the homeowner. Um, it was shocking how much there was to get set up on the front end.
Yeah.
Now, not as much. Some things run on autopilot. Um, we were chatting before we got on about Hound Dog that I'm using now. They are kind of run my back end things on autopilot, making sure my subs are compliant for insurance, making sure we have W-9s, making sure we have sub agreements signed. All that stuff runs on autopilot for me now. It was such a pain, before I started using them, to get all those things. I mean, just constant, like, calendar reminders in my Google Calendar, my phone, trying to keep it all, together with a spreadsheet and everything else. I mean, it was just a disaster.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I took over the construction business that I ran in 2018, like, again, we were collecting the COIs up front, like we got all the paperwork we needed when the sub started, but like it just somehow apparently we dropped a lot of balls and never collect, I mean, sometimes we collected it if the sub sent us the renewal, every year, but like, I
Right.
think that was one of those things that like you just don't often realize or know until you get nailed. And like our insurance provider said, hey, we need to see all the COIs from the previous year before we're going to
Yep.
renew your policy. And it's like, okay, I go to the office and they're like, oh, well, we got some, but not all. I was like, wait, what do you mean? They're like, we don't have them all, Eric. I was like, okay. So we gathered up everything we had and we sent it. And they're like, yeah, basically we took on, and they fined us $35,000,
Oh,
that we had to like pay an additional, like, liability, even though, I mean, there was no one got hurt, there was no death, no injuries,
yep.
no theft. Like we had no claims or anything, but like they deemed that, again, not having, those subs insured. I mean, that like, it was such like a silly thing because like there was no additional cost to us to collect it or to do anything other than make sure we collected it. And
Yep.
yet it's just such an easy thing that like, you don't think about, you don't realize. And so when I found Hound Dog, I mean, that, hey, it was pretty awesome. And Rusty and his team, I mean, they literally built the entire integration to JobTread without our help or anything. And like now this whole
Wow.
thing is just on autopilot for, like I think it's like over 1,000 customers. Like it just automatically does all this stuff in the background and makes sure like you got all your I's dotted, your T's crossed. And like it's such a huge boost to be able to have something like that. And it's like $1 a month. I mean, it's
Yeah.
incredible, per sub, but for such a nominal expense to just again make sure you've got all your bases covered is well worth it.
Yep. When that annual work comp audit comes, which, another thing I had no idea about, all of a sudden it shows up in the mail. I'm like, how do I fill this out? Where do I get this information?
Yeah.
That's that now it's easy. Now I just go to Hound Dog, print out the report and send it in to them. It's so much easier.
Yeah, that's great. And it's good thing though you figured out the whole contracts early on too. I mean, I still see so many contractors like who don't really have a contract in place, and it's like, man, you were just like waiting for that one time to come in here and just put you on your knees. Like
Yep.
it is so crazy to think like you would go into a job and not have a contract to protect yourself. And I see it every day, and it's just like I'm just like, man, like, and we have a great partner in the Cromeans law firm where we've like negotiated a flat rate to like get something in place. They'll customize it to your state, to your type of work.
Yep.
And I think it's like $2,500 or something like that. It's like such a nominal expense that like early on though, it feels like a whole lot of money when you
For
don't
sure.
have any jobs, and you don't have any stuff coming in. But it's like, man, these are just the table stakes. If you want to get into the game, like you got to protect yourself. Like the last thing you
Yep.
want to do is get sued, and not have any, not have any backup.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I was just talking to an excavator today before this meeting that, we're talking about the same thing. He's been around a lot longer than I have, but we were talking about how much it's changed from when he started to now. And I'm like, yeah, I have like a 15 to 20 page contract with all my homeowners for not even like, it's not like not even for a new build, just for a simple remodel or a roof or something like that. And it's just that you have to have those protections in place. It's not the, scribble the price on a napkin and handshake agreement anymore. I wish it was. I wish things were still like that, but it's just not the day and age we live in anymore. And definitely need to protect yourself. Find
Yep.
a good attorney, get those documents in place, because I've never had the situation come up, but I've heard of it for other contractors, and it is so important.
Yeah. No, there's nothing worse, man, when you see like somebody getting, getting in hot water over something that like literally like they had nothing to do with. And it's just like, in this day and age, anyone can sue anything for anything. And it's just like
Yep.
such BS. But like, you got to have something in place. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of, man, like you got to protect yourself. What did you do? I'm curious. What did you do from like a bookkeeping standpoint? Like, did you set up QuickBooks right away, or how did you kind of manage all that?
Yeah, I did. My CPA that I got hooked up with, who's been fantastic. He's the one that actually got me connected with JobTread. He kind of they kind of took all that stuff over. They kind of
Nice.
specialize in businesses. So they set all that stuff up. They're like, you need QuickBooks. That's where I'm at now. Have been since day one. It's been a fantastic system. I don't do a ton on it. That's kind of I have gotten smart and delegated that to them, pay them to take care of it, then you guys handle this side of things. So, but yeah, but besides between JobTread and the integration with JobTread over to QuickBooks, everything links there. And it's a very seamless process. QuickBooks has been fantastic. Obviously, again, I don't deal with it in the day to day, but dealing with my CPA and accountant to take care of all that stuff, QuickBooks has been great. And then, having that link to JobTread, I I didn't have that before with my old CRM. So having that link now is, oh my gosh, so much easier. You eliminate so much double entry or errors because you're trying to you type a number backwards or something. So it's been much better.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love hearing that, and I think it's such a good move that you made to like just get somebody again. Like you knew QuickBooks and bookkeeping wasn't going to be your jam, but like you found a partner at the very beginning to set yourself up because like I can't tell you the number of times I still run across people like, yeah, we don't have an accounting system. We
Yeah.
just keep track of it in Excel. And I'm just like, what? How is that even possible? Like, like I don't know, man. Again, it's a recipe for disaster, right? Like, and it's
Yep.
these types of situations that people end up finding themselves in, in hot water, deep down, this path of like not being able to discern like what you owe, what are your taxes, how are we gonna, run our, do all of the stuff that like again, like if you don't set yourself up for success from the beginning, then like it's gonna be very very hard, and those will be the moments that will ultimately, more often than not, be the things that crush a small business, is because like they didn't know though. And
Yep.
like that's the challenge, right? You don't know what you don't know when you're getting into business. But man, like that is another solid, like you must do. Get your books set up from the beginning,
For
hire an
sure.
accountant, a bookkeeper, a CPA, somebody who knows and does this every single day. A lot of bonus points if they understand construction accounting, but like that is like just a must have as well. So sounds awesome that you cross that thing off your list from day one.
Yeah, and it helps the company know where your numbers are at too, as far as a profit
Yeah.
number. I am by no means an expert in that. I am still learning, trying to get better at it. Really, I don't have any accounting background or business background or anything. So trying to figure out what all these acronyms mean and understand all that, I'm still learning
Yeah.
100%. But at least from a overall, high level view, I can understand where the dollars are going, what my numbers look like as far as the company, where my profits at, and then use JobTread to keep track of all those things. Know, like you said, where bills need to be paid, what checks are coming in. I mean, you cannot be successful. At least what I've found out in my short time, you can't be successful if you don't have a way to keep track of those numbers and know where things are at.
Yeah, as a business owner, and again, I can definitely appreciate, if you don't have that background in accounting and finance, like but at the end of the day, like I think as a business owner, like you do need to dig in and understand your numbers. And I would say, to you and anyone else out there in a similar situation, like, I mean, sit down with the CPA, the bookkeeper, whoever it may be, and say, hey, can you walk me through this? Can you give me a crash course and help me understand? I'm not trying to do this day to day, but like, when you look at, the end of the month, when you close out those books, like, how do we do? Does everything tick and tie? Like, is there anything that, we miss? Like, are there things that we need to take into account? Like, do we see any of our costs like increasing? Like, so many times people don't like, you know, keep keep a close enough tab on what's happening,
for
like
sure.
all of your operating costs, all of your overhead. Like, if you just sort of set it and forget it and don't ever look at it, and you don't realize that, like, man, like, our costs are increasing, that could lead to you needing to increase your profit margin to make sure that you're covering, that overhead expense in the same form. Because, again, the cost of, operating a business is continuing to grow up, to go
Yep.
up every single day, and so it's important that you do have a good handle on it. Definitely don't need to be doing the day-to-day, bookkeeping, and you need to have someone in place to do it. But I think just, in general, it's a good practice to make sure you do spend some time looking at it and just kind of making sure you understand it all. I think that's it's a good lesson, and you get to learn it with your own business and your own books versus reading a textbook or, learning from someone else,
Exactly.
right?
Yep, for sure.
So where do you want to take the business, Cody? Like, what's kind of the 5-10 year plan? I mean, is there kind of some master plan that we're working towards?
Not really. I kind of, I guess, really, I have an idea. Like, I really want to get into new construction and remodeling again. That's really where I want to be. So that's kind of a short term plan. We're getting there. We're working towards that. We've dipped our toes back in this year. It was a good year to kind of revitalize that part, or really for me revitalize for the company. Kind of start that this year. Getting back into it. But that's I don't have a grand plan. Ultimately, I want the company to be around for a while. I don't want to be a massive company. I like the smaller family company. Having some of the contractors around here have, 50, 60 guys running around, and that's not I'm not interested in that. I don't want to manage that many people. I think where I see it, and maybe next year, I think that's where I would like to be in a really short term, is have a few people on staff, probably like an assistant, and hopefully a carpenter, kind of a lead carpenter is kind of probably my goal for like 26. I think that would alleviate, go back full circle back to our first comments, that would alleviate a lot of issues on my end
Yep.
and eliminate me as a cog right now, because I'm 100% a roadblock for the company moving forward, just because I'm trying to do everything and I just can't. There's too much.
Yep.
So bringing in people in the next year or two to kind of eliminate those things for me, or take care of them for me, is kind of probably a short-term goal. Long-term goal, I probably want to, as much as it pains me to not have a tool belt on, I probably want to step out from doing the day-to-day construction, and really just oversee the business. I found that I have a knack for talking to people, customer service, and kind of managing things is somehow it just came about through starting a business, as I found that I'm fairly good at that. So that's probably where I want to be long term, is put people in place that can run things, do the construction, and then kind of have me as a business owner, that everybody that you stereotypically think of when you think of a business owner, kind of on the top, overlooking and moving the pieces around as need be, to make the company grow. So I don't really I don't really have any financial goals or anything like that. Naturally, eventually I want to, grow the bottom line, make the company more profitable, which makes, my family better off. But I want to bring people in that I enjoy working with. I don't I've seen it. I've been there, worked with people that are not the right fit. Um, and I really want to bring people in that are like-minded like me, that really care about the customer and the final product. I feel like the industry has taken a shift in the last handful of years to really caring about that, really caring about customer service, and really caring about quality, which I think is a great spot for our industry to be in and be moving towards, um, overall. So that's kind of where I want to be. I don't really have a grand master plan that I want to get to, but I've got a 15-month-old boy that I'd like long term. That's probably my end game, is at some point, hopefully the company's still around when he's my age, and can take the reins from dad. I think that would be, I hear about that a lot. I didn't have that opportunity. I think that would be very, very cool, and I don't know what it's going to be, 20, 30 years for my little man to take the reins from dad, and continue on with Wings Construction.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And again, I think they're just the plan is to build a great business and to to be able to have a very profitable, successful, scalable company that again you already got you and your dad involved. You get your son one day involved. I mean that's awesome. You build a team and you deliver great work and you improve people's lives out in the community. I mean, like, I think that's a very noble, honorable plan. That's a good vision, good thing to strive for. I mean, it's I think a lot of people think, oh, well, maybe, in so many years I got to sell it or I got to do something else. I mean, like, that doesn't have to be the plan. I mean,
Right.
I think it's all about doing what works for you and your family. Make sure that,
Yep.
every day you wake up and you're loving life and you're doing what you want to do. That's the beauty of being an entrepreneur and owning the business, is that you get to make that choice each and every day. And if
Exactly.
that's what makes you happy, then by all means, man, we only get one life here. So you got to
Yep.
spend your time doing what you love.
Yep. You got to enjoy it, or you're miserable. Your customers can feel it. Your subs can feel it. Your employees, if you have any, can feel it. You need to enjoy your work as well. And
Yep.
that's the American dream, I guess. Being an entrepreneur and owning your own business. It's awesome. I wouldn't trade it
Yeah.
for anything.
So I mean, again, you started this really young. When you think back, like, I, I can't tell you the number of people that that have tried to follow in your footsteps, but have ultimately thrown in the towel. And I mean, most sane person would throw in the towel. Like, why do we as entrepreneurs wake up to take a beating every day? Who knows? I don't know. Still
Seriously.
somehow gets us excited or whatever. But like, when you think back, like, what do you think? Like, what has been the key to your success? I mean, the fact that you're, again, 5+ years in, like, you have been successful. What would you attribute that success to?
Yeah, I mean, luck. Was probably part of it. If you don't acknowledge that, you're probably lying. So I've definitely have found myself in the right spots and with the right people sometimes. But I think probably the biggest thing, for at least for me, is being relatable to people. Just being a normal person, not a slick talking salesman. It's turned into like my sales pitch for homeowners is, I tell them that I'm like, I'm not the slick talking used car salesman that can stand here and talk to you forever. I'm a carpenter by trade, and I want to do an honest job for you, do great work, and make sure that you're happy. And that's really where my customers have resonated with me. And the feedback that I've gotten from them, from referrals, like, I don't really advertise. So oh gosh, probably 90 probably 95% of my business comes from just referrals,
Hmm.
homeowner referrals, other business referrals, and insurance companies. And I think that's really why that continues to be my lead source, is just connecting with people and not trying to just do a job and get out of there. I'm in this with them for the long run. I do a lot of roof inspections. And if I showed up on every roof and told the homeowner they need a new roof and you need to file an insurance claim, yeah, I probably would, in the short term, have more business immediately, but that's not a long term play. It's always going to come back to bite you. So I've had so many customers in the last couple of years reach out from many years, but previously I looked at their house, and all of a sudden, like, hey, you looked at my house, 4 or 5 years ago. Can you do XYZ for me now? And it's the lasting impression that you leave with people, that I think has made this a successful run so far. And I think that's kind of a a really strong value for me and my company is that's how I want to be perceived as an honest contractor that isn't going to lie to somebody. That's there's plenty of those out there. We've all heard the horror stories. I hear them all the time from homeowners. Um, so that's just I don't want I want to be the complete opposite of that. So
Yeah.
I think going about things the right way has really made me successful in the short run here.
That's awesome, man. And I think, again, when you do good, you help others, it comes back to you, in the long run. And I think, there's so many people out there that you're right. I mean, they look to take the shortcuts, they cut corners, they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like they're just,
Yep,
it's unfortunate that there are those bad actors out there that give, the entire industry a bad rap, and
they really
it
do.
creates this fear that, these the homeowners are like, man, like I heard that story. And again, of course, even if it's like one out of a, 100 or 1,000 or whatever number, like, the media takes that one story and blows it up, and then like it creates that fear and that hesitation. And like, it is real though, and it's something that, I think when you can find somebody who genuinely does have your best interest at heart and wants to help you and really understands your need, not to just sell you everything under the sun, even though you
Yep,
don't need it. Like, that is what will earn you that repeat business. That's what will earn you, the word of mouth and the referrals and the recommendations. Like, at the end of the day, like, when you take care of your customers, they will take care of you, and
yep,
it's so important that people go into every job, with the mindset of like, I want to earn that 5-star review. I want to deliver an exceptional customer experience. Like I want to give them a solution to their problem that will make them want to have me come back, time and
exactly.
time again.
And that's I think a big part of it is too many guys that I've seen that I've heard of. They go in and they're it's sell 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 sell.
Yeah.
They just want to tell them they want to tell the homeowner what they need instead of just taking a step back and listening and asking questions about what the homeowner is trying to tell you and what problem they're having that you can help solve. You just have to let them get to that point. Don't go into it trying to sell something that they might not need. Take a step back, let them do the talking, ask questions, figure out really what they need and how you can help them. And that's really the approach I've taken to, and it's worked so far. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of guys could could do that better, and they would get more business in my opinion.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I see a lot of people too who, when you start off with just taking the insurance jobs and, basically taking whatever insurance is offering you, a lot of times people don't, really understand, like, can I afford to do this job? Is this a good job where, there's enough in it for me to be able to pay my guys and pay myself and put a little
Right.
bit away? Like, it's interesting that you've been able to build, a successful business like with so much of those insurance jobs. I mean, have you gotten into the like the supplementing and like figuring out ways to like, because like a lot of times, like, I mean, insurance is just squeezing everybody, right? Like it's very
They are.
hard to get much of anything, out of them, much less build, a business that you can keep growing. So how have you handled that?
Yeah, it's been when I first started, it was a lot easier, honestly. In the last couple years, the insurance world has definitely shifted um, for what they're paying for and how they're paying things out for any XYZ damage. So it's definitely supplementing, a lot of supplementing back and forth, dealing with the insurance company. You kind of have to know how to navigate that. Um, I I have gotten pretty good at it. I have a couple of friends in the industry that have been in it a lot longer than I have that I lean on, ask questions of when I need to, like, how do I handle this situation? How do I talk to the insurance about this and get them to pay for that because we have to do that to get the roof replaced or whatever it is. So it's definitely a interesting business to be in and dealing with the insurance company to repair a homeowner's house. Um, and you're right. If you just every single job, if you do it for the insurance paperwork or whatever is on there, you're not always going to win. Some you might win, and others you are not going to come out good. And you have to I think you have to supplement a lot of these jobs because the insurance is pinching it. And right, I mean, I understand it's frustrating on our end, and nobody wants to give insurance credit, but ultimately they're a business too. They're not going to they don't want to go pay for things that they don't need to pay for. So
Yeah.
that's kind of on the contractor to know what is needed for that job, document it, and get it supplemented over to the insurance company so that you can accurately and correctly do the job for the homeowner.
Yeah. Is that a lot of the, the desire to go to new construction, the remodels versus continuing to do the insurance work?
It is big time. It's a it gets old dealing with the insurance companies all the time. They're not pleasant. They suck up so much of my time going back and forth with them to get things paid for
Yeah.
that I mean, they're blatantly obvious they have to get paid for, like they're damaged. We can't just reuse this. It's damaged. It needs to be paid for, and they'll just battle you on it. And
No.
it's unfortunate that it's like that. Some adjusters are great. You deal with some adjusters and they're like, oh yeah, sounds good. Send me a picture. Okay, great. And it's approved. Others are just, I mean, there could be a hole in the roof and they're like, nope, sounds good. You can reuse those shingles. Really? So it's just you get both sides of it. And just honestly, I'm kind of tired. I'm kind of tired of the game. And also waiting for hail to fall out of the sky. Not a great business model. So when
Yeah.
it happens, great. And those leads come in, my insurance agent sends me business. I get phone calls from all the customers that I've had in the past, but it's not a great business model that I've kind of learned early on that, if the business wants to continue to be around, you can't sit around and wait for hail to come out of the sky.
Yeah.
As good as it can be sometimes, what happens if it doesn't fall? And this year's a perfect example. Last year was very slow. This year was very slow. We had a small storm here recently, but here's 2 years in a row where we in Minnesota we haven't had a huge hailstorm.
Yeah.
So it and we've seen people and other contractors in the area close up shop because that's their main business. If you don't have it, it's you're gonna close your doors. So yes, that's 100% a big reason for the pivot. Is not a great business model. I'm kind of tired of dealing with insurance companies. So
Yeah. I'm definitely seeing a lot of a lot of roofers moving in the retail direction, or even, I mean, just like you. And I think this is where job trade just like beautifully, positioned to help roofers, is that, like, you can really run any type of construction project out of job trade. And so I do see a lot more people like looking at other avenues. You're already there. Can we get inside? Can we do a remodel? You got a bath, like, can we do any, again, structural work, the drywalls, the additions, maybe some decks outside. Like, I mean, there are so many different types of, trades. And when you can manage a roof, and you get the fundamentals of, managing these projects, I mean, it's not that much different, right? Like, obviously having the
exactly.
right team, and kind of when you can have that, play GC, you can go find the right trade partners who are specialists in each of these areas. It's more about, being able to sell the jobs and manage the jobs, and I think, again, you're very well suited to be able to take that on. It's gonna
Yeah.
gonna be probably a whole lot easier, from at least from a profitability standpoint, to be able to make those jobs take you a whole lot farther than dealing with
Yeah.
insurance every day.
And that was where my move to job tread came from was exactly what you said. My old CRM, I couldn't it was built to handle just roofing, siding, and insurance jobs.
Yeah.
And I needed something else because I knew I wanted to get back into remodels. I knew I wanted to get into new construction. The old CRM was just it wasn't capable of that. So JobTread is capable of handling all of those things. There's so much more to manage and keep track of with invoices for materials and all these things that JobTread can handle that you have to have that. So if you're managing just a roof project, there's not much to it. You have a couple bills and maybe a permit and that's it. Well, you do a remodel or anything else, you have who knows how many bills, 50 to 100 bills sometimes, depending on the project. And
Yeah.
you have to be able to keep track of all those. And that's really where my switch came from. And it's, it was a learning curve to start. But now that, and the system is so robust. It really is. I've seen a lot of comments on the Facebook page and whatnot that it's overwhelming. And it definitely can be, but there's something in there for everybody to figure out how to use it for your business. Along with, there's other people that can help you get it set up, which is where I need to go next. Um, bringing someone in that really knows how to work job tread way better than I do, that can make your workflows and all that stuff work together and make things easier to really utilize the system just to make your life easier, because the tools are there. You just have to know how to use them, or like I'm going to do, have somebody do it for me and get it set up.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think I like to tell people like, look, you got to make a prioritized list. Like, what is the most important thing to you? What is the biggest bottleneck in your business? Let's get really great at that. Focus on getting that implemented, adopted, like, and then you can start moving on to the next thing. Okay, we got our estimating down. Okay, great. Now let's go to scheduling or to job costing or whatever it may be. Like, it's about kind
Yeah.
of focusing on a prioritized set of things that you want to do in there, and you can continue adding, and as you need them, and as you grow, as you build a bigger team, as you take on more jobs, as you start to the business starts to mature. The good thing is that you've got the tools, that you're using the same tools as 50 or $100 million companies using, but it's
Yep.
it's 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 not something that you got to implement on day one. And I think a lot of people see that and do think, oh my gosh, like how do I get this implemented? I don't have the people or whatever. And it's like, well,
Yep.
let's take it one step at a time, buddy. Like let's kind of get to the stage where we need those things, and that will help you continue growing and continue, to take the business to the next level. But it's something that again, I'm just excited to see your growth, man. Like again, like to start this at such a young age, to have really been you, and it sounds like your dad a little bit there. I mean, it's you've done a great job, man, and I'm
I
really
appreciate it.
I'm just always excited to see again, it's the American dream, right? Like we are so fortunate to be in such an incredible country where you can literally start a business with no other experience, and like you had the motivation and the
Yep.
desire and the will to do whatever it took, and you did it. You
Yep.
got this thing up and off the ground. You've generated a good amount of income over the last several years, and you got a plan to keep growing it. And what you need to figure out, and every year I think you can keep getting better and better, and keep growing. And that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, like, this isn't like a race, right? Like, I mean, it's a
Right.
journey. It's a very long marathon, and as long as you're continuing to grow and you're having fun, like, you got to enjoy life. And sounds like you're
Yep.
doing what you want to do every day. You're getting to put food on the table, building something that maybe one day your son will take over. Whatever it is, it's all about loving life, man, and it's about doing what makes you happy and helping
Yep.
others. So
Exactly. Yep. I agree completely.
awesome, man. Well, look, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story. I think this is going to be an extremely valuable one for a lot of people out there, because I know there's so many people that are still, got one foot, in the tools, one foot, like, on the business, trying to figure out, do I go all in? Do I not? Like, I mean, you are the case in point. Like, yes, you can be successful if you
Yep.
devote yourself to it. And I'm excited, man. I love seeing it, and I appreciate, the opportunity just to be a partner here for you. Just, a little software guy on the side, but like, this truly is. This is why we do it, man. It's to see people like you have success and be able to build something great. So I'm excited to see in the next several years where you take it.
Yeah. I appreciate it. It's been great chatting with you, and having Job Trade as a partner. It's a lot of opportunities for not just using job tread, but all the different people that I've seen and connected with, just because I simply use job tread as my system. All the other people that I've been able to connect with and learn from it's invaluable. And that's what you have to do, is step back and really realize and be cognizant of that. I don't know everything, far from it. So, taking all these people that know way more, and just soaking up all the information that you can, is really what I'm trying to do to be even more successful.
Awesome, man. Well, appreciate it, Cody. Look forward to hopefully I'll see you at Job Trade Connect in January. Be a great place, again, for you to meet a bunch of other entrepreneurs, bunch of people that are, have gone through the same thing, going through the same thing, like great networking education. So hopefully I'll see
Yeah.
you there. But again, keep building, man. You're doing a great job.
Thanks a lot, Eric. Thanks for talking to me today. Appreciate it.
All right, see ya. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.